What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. Guys, you know that I always start off by showing love to those companies that show this podcast love. Guys, I want to introduce a new one that I'm very happy and proud to announce. Why do I feel like I'm 8 foot tall? There we go. Is going to be my friends over at Company Cam. Guys, Company Cam exists purely to make fun of their CEO, Luke Hansen. They tell investors we exist to help contractors build trust with their crews and customers. In 2014, Luke was working for his family's roofing business and found himself spending too much trying to get his crews to document job sites. He looked around for software to make life easier and found a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't working, but none of that. He couldn't find something that actually filled what he was trying to do. Luke decided to make a solution himself, so he hired a local software company. Together, they created the first version of Company Cam, but that was only the beginning. Since then, they've grown, changed, and adapted to stay ahead of the users in the industry. They embrace change and improvement and continue to add new features and integrations. In 2021, they received a $30 million investment, which they are putting right back into their product and customers, like the responsible adults they occasionally are. They are proud of the app. Company Cam is really kind of hitting the market for documentation to make it easier. It integrates with a whole bunch of the CRMs. So guys, I'm going to have a link. This is literally a new sponsorship within the last couple of weeks. So there's going to be a special link just for the Uncensored Nation listeners and viewers. So in the next week or so, I will have that for you. So if you're interested, check out my friends at Company Cam. Last but not least is going to be my friends, my rock that I've had. I love this company. I've been partnered with them for the whole 4 years I've been doing this podcast. My friends over at Yellow Jacket. For more than 70 years, Jack Ritchie set a goal for Ritchie Engineering to become a standard by which all other HVAC hoses are measured. In the last 7 decades, the Yellow Jacket brand has not only become the standard in hoses, tools, refrigeration gauges, manifolds, HVAC vacuum pumps, and refrigerant recovery machines, it's become legendary. How have they done it? Through an unwavering commitment to excellence. It's the single most important attribute in the longevity of a company. While other companies sold out and sent work overseas or lessened quality, the relentlessness commitment of their people has led to over 70 years of best-in-class products, first-class customer service, and innovations that make the customer's job easier worldwide. Guys, let's join Yellow Jacket in the next 70 years as they commit to changing the standard once again. Guys, remember, 70 years of expertise built into every tool. All right, let's get this pledge and get this show rolling. I'm excited for my guest tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States. And thank you to all those men and women who defend it.
Five, four, three, two, one, go.
Welcome to the #1 rated HVAC podcast. If you're looking to grow in the HVAC industry, then you're in the right spot. Blue collar people talking about blue collar shit. Let's get better together. So turn up the volume, buckle your seatbelt, and let's welcome your host, Gil KV Jr.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. Thank you guys for being here this Wednesday night. Guys, I have an amazing guest tonight. He has become a friend. He helps Beltway. He is actually our personal coach that helps the company, like helps guide us, figure out what we're doing sometimes, because sometimes you need that. We don't all know everything, and sometimes you need help. And he has been absolutely amazing in guiding us in the direction that we need to go. I know Ryan feels the same way. I know Amanda, the GM, feels the same way, that he's been an integral part of what we do. He's been in this industry forever as far as running companies, and now he is with RYNO Traxion. He has teamed up with RYNO Strategic Solutions, the marketing giant, to create RYNO Traxion. Guys, none other, please put your hands together for my good friend, Mr. TJ Hartnett. Let me unmute him. Hold on. Gotcha. There he is. What's up, my friend?
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I am good, man. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm excited to talk to you. Let some people, hear this conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, hey, man, my name's spelled wrong. I'm going to give you a hard time. You're missing a T.
We're going to change it right now because we're going to make sure that it is correct.
We're going to get a T in between that R and the N.
There we go.
There we go. That's better. That's my papa's name, so we got to get that right.
Yeah. So. No, I got to make sure I change the other screen. That's me trying to type too fast and change it. Sometimes people pop up and I'll have the guess from last time's name. I'm like, oh shit. Tom. So I guess TJ. I'm sorry. His name is Tom. Us friends call him TJ. I didn't know that at first. I was the only asshole still calling him Tom.
Now
there we go. There's Mr. TJ. Now you're good. I was going to say, we were talking the whole time before we hit live and everything was fine.
Yep. I have no idea. So sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, man. Shit happens. So I guess, Tom, why don't you, or TJ, I'm sorry. Why don't you let everybody know who TJ Hartnett is and what your background is, my friend?
Sure enough. So, obviously, my name is TJ Hartnett, or Tom, for those who have known me for prior to this year. I've been in the trade since about 1994, right? I think it was October 4th of 94 was my very first day in the trades. I accepted a job as an oil burner apprentice up here in the northeastern United States. I live about 25 miles northwest of Philadelphia. So in the suburbs of Philly. Started as an oil burner apprentice. Spent my first 2.5, almost 3 years doing just oil burner cleanings. So for anybody that's on the line that ever had to do maintenance on oil, you know what that's like, right? So it's it's the least glorious job you can do in our trade. Got about 2.5 years in and realized that if I learned some other stuff, there was a chance that I didn't have to be stinky anymore. And I would not have to get covered in soot and covered in oil and take that smell home and all those different things. So started going to classes at night, really going to anything that I could, right? Reading different magazines, going to classes, doing, like, if it was available for us to do in the trade, Gil, in the mid to late 90s, like, I was doing it. I was 100% all in, a student of the business. And spent from 94 to 2015 on the trade side. So whether that was as a technician, an installer, a service manager, doing sales, owning and operating, general management for some of the larger contractors here in the Northeast. From 94 to 15 was fully immersed on the trade side. In 2015, I really honestly just had like this desire to do more coaching, right? So part of being a leader, part of being a manager is obviously you coach folks. But what I discovered was that part just fulfilled me so much more than any of the other aspects of what I was doing as a leader. And so made the transition over to the coaching side on the IAQ side of things for a little while. I worked with the amazing team at April Air, as well as Steve Morse and his team at Dynamic. All phenomenal people that I still have really good relationships with. But ultimately what happened was I realized, like, most business owners don't really want to take advice from the guy selling them filters.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much you may or may not know, regardless of your previous life or whatever, at the end of the day, I was still just the guy selling filters. And so I had to get out from that, and was really fortunate enough to have a longtime friend and mentor in the way of Kenny Chapman. And he had his team over at the Blue Collar Success Group, which again is another group of just tremendous people that I was a part of for a number of years. Joined that team, was one of the coaching staff members at Blue Collar. until essentially speaking, it just got to a place where, the direction that they wanted to kind of go in versus the direction I wanted to go in weren't 100% aligned. It doesn't mean that anybody was wrong or anything like that. It just, our relationship had kind of gone its way from that standpoint, and it didn't make sense for me to really be there with where they were headed and what they were doing. And the opportunity came up with Chris here at RYNO to start a coaching side, right? Initially, the initial thought was CSRs and call takers, because of the fact that, we're generating the leads. So let's make sure that we can help these companies with what to do with them once they get them. But because of a lot of my existing relationships and reputation and things that had come about, the business coaching side has grown far faster than the CSR coaching side. And so on the business coaching side, it's more involved. It's me looking at financials with these companies. It's helping them put systems and processes in place. It's helping them create a budget for them to function and work off of for the year. And then, whether it's working with their technicians, their sales staff, whatever it might be, I just love that variety that we get through that business coaching side. And so that's what I get to do every day is just, kind of be a virtual general manager, if you will, or a virtual COO, and peer into all these different companies that are doing amazing things. But it's really hard to kind of see the forest through the trees sometimes, right? And it's not what I want everybody to hear about coaching, though. Like, one thing I want everybody to leave with is coaching doesn't mean something's wrong. Having a coach does not mean you are full of problems. It does not mean something's wrong. It does not mean that you don't know how to do things. It simply means that you're more committed to your success than you are to your ego. And you're willing to look outside of yourself and your own ceiling of complexity to make sure that your team is properly prepared to do as best as they possibly can. And that's how I approach coaching. One of the things that you'll see that's way different, Gil, is, there's a lot of shiny folks in the coaching industry right now, right? There's a lot of glitz and glamour and flashiness and things like that. Like, I'll promise you're never going to see a video of me driving a Lambo. And it's not because I don't think it's a cool car. It's just because I don't think there's a lot of tastefulness in that.
Or you won't make a video telling us how good you are.
Somebody else is going to have to do that, because I'll tell you all the things I don't do well. I'll tell you all the mistakes that I've made, which is what makes me, I believe, a really good coach, because I've already made those mistakes for you. So if I can look at the path that you're traversing and help you avoid making some of those same mistakes, then I owe that to you to do that. And so that, I believe, is what makes me effective coach versus, being that know-it-all guy, right? Because I'll 100% tell you, if I don't know, my response to you is going to be, hey, Gil, that's a great question. I don't know, but I'm going to go find the answer for you. Give me X amount of time and I'll come back.
Yeah, and that's how I am. When people, like I tell on the podcast, if people ask me something and I don't know, it's like, hey, I don't know that, but fuck it, we'll learn together. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. That's what real people do. They don't bullshit you when you ask them something and they don't know, Right. Somebody's saying hi to my dog. She's not down here right now. Just see in the chat box. Tell his dog I said hello. That's funny. Well, one thing I can say, TJ, is us at Beltway, I know Ryan and Amanda feel the same way. We will vouch for TJ and what he does. And like I said, he's been an integral part for us being able to ask questions. And I introduced somebody to him at AHR, because I get messages all the time of guys, and I get it. A lot of guys, it's, hey man, I want to go start my own company. I've been doing this for a long time. And that's awesome. We get that. That's kind of that American dream in the field. You know, you work your way up and you want to go start your own company. That's great. But we always say, just because you're a good technician doesn't mean you will be a good owner. Trust me, I was a great technician and a great sales guy, but I still learned to be a manager. I still learned to do that role. It's a learning process, and it's okay for me to admit that. That's how I'm going to grow. If I just act like my shit don't stink, then I'm never going to get better, and I'm no good to myself or my team. Well, go ahead.
And we're one of the only professions that runs into this situation where our really high achievers end up getting promoted into a position of incompetence. Right? So here's what I mean by that. You could be the best technician in your company. You could be the best installer in your company, whatever. And then the next step becomes management. Well, that's a completely different skill set than it is to be the guy that knows how to diagnose everything. And the other side of it is, you don't have to be technically the best person to be an amazing manager. You have to have an idea of what it is that you're asking people to do. But in order to be a really solid manager, you've got to be willing to lead people and manage processes. And that's where it gets really sketchy, right? Because as a technician, the only person that we had to manage was ourselves. And now we're having to manage other folks. And so how do we do that? We end up initially, in most cases, doing when I did it, I did this. And when I did it, well, here's a newsflash. Nobody really cares how you or I did it, right? And they certainly don't want to get beat over the head with how you or I did it once we become their person that's in charge of them, because they're going to be like, well, if you're so stinking great, why don't you come do it? And it doesn't get the team to come along with us. So when we go from that position of being the best technician to being promoted into like a service manager role or whatever that next step might be, the very first thing that I would encourage anyone to do that goes through that is do yourself a favor and learn and read and do anything you can on being humble, having emotional intelligence, and showing empathy to your team. Because I believe that if you can do those three things effectively, you'll be able to create other leaders instead of causing people to quit, right? Because that's really the two things that happen. You either become a good leader and you create other leaders, or you're not a good leader and you're the reason people quit.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think the reason that I have been I'm going to say decent manager is because of leadership that I've taken from like playing sports and stuff like that. And just like really caring about people is what helped me, because all the guys that work for us know that I love them to death, and girls know that I will always be there. I will always answer my phone. I always want to be the manager that I never had, so I don't care if it's on the weekend, it's 9:30 at night, they're on call and they call me, I'm fucking answering the phone. And they know hey Gil, I'm having trouble. I know it's Saturday. No problem. I'll be out there. Give me 30 minutes. I'll be out there. I'm going to go, because that's what I wanted. When I was in a situation, I was stuck and I'm calling and I get a voicemail and I'm like, well, you feel like you're on this island and you're trapped and there's nobody there to help you. And even if they call me and I don't know the answer, they still feel better because there's somebody on the other line of the phone.
Yeah. So let me paint a scenario. And this to me tells me everything I need to know about leadership. Leadership shows itself when we're slow. It doesn't show itself when we're busy, because when we're busy, the natural progression and the natural motion of things takes over and everything just kind of goes because we're that busy. But the leadership piece really comes in when it slows down. In how do you take advantage of the fact that it's slower, right? Are you using that as an opportunity to train your guys? Are you using that as an opportunity to pair them up, ride them together? And look, there's all kinds of arguments and people will give me a hard time about, well, we need to be profitable. And I get that, right? But if profit is ever a more important priority to a company than growing good people, you're working at the wrong company.
Amen.
I believe that with every ounce of my being. Profit is always a result of what the core values and the mission are. It's never the primary focus. And the minute it becomes the primary focus, the train goes off the tracks. It's always a result. And so when it comes to the leadership side of things, when things are slower, here's where I go. How many of us have ever been out where it's snowy? We're out running calls. We call back to the office to clear, and there's nobody there. Everybody at the office is gone. That is a giant lack of leadership. Somebody needs to stay available until the last team member goes home. Not a popular thing. And I'm not saying you got to stay in the office, but you need to have that availability for your team. Because I've been the technician that it's 11 o'clock at night. It's cold as crap. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I need a question answered, and there's nobody around to help me. And it's the loneliest feeling in the world. So what I would encourage, again, everybody is when you get into a position of leadership, I love, Gil, what you said is be the leader you didn't have. Be to other people what you wished someone would have been for you. Don't use it as a time to smack everybody else over the head with how great you think you are, because now you're a leader. Because all that does, I will promise you, right? And anybody who was subjected to being under my leadership early in my career as a leader will tell, like, I was one of the world's biggest assholes, right? I was a jerk. It was, I do it this way and I do it that way. And I believe if I could go back in time right now and meet my 25-year-old self, I would kick my own butt, right? Because I was just a jerk. But I didn't know that then. Right. So it's this learning process, but with our trade and where it's going right now, I really think the companies that are going to succeed and are going to thrive and are going to grow, and the team members that are going to thrive and are going to grow are going to be the guys that are going to be willing to take part in growing other people. Right. I mean, you guys know what I'm working with you at Beltway, right? We're trying to get some guys Beltway certified. Yeah. And the minute they are, we're going to apprentice them up. We're going to ride people with them. And those new people are going to become Beltway certified. And then now instead of 2, you have 4. Then instead of 4, you have 8. Then instead of, all of a sudden, we don't have a shortage issue. We don't have a problem where we don't have enough technicians, because we've said to heck with trying to go get the experienced ones that have all the bad habits and want to tell us how much money they're worth. We're going to go ahead and hire guys who are hungry and gals who are hungry, who want to learn, who want to serve in this trade. And then we're going to give them that skill set to be able to do it, as long as they're willing to give the work and put in the time, effort, and energy to get themselves where they ought to be. So, the game is changing.
It is. And to be honest, I get it. Because, when you first get into management or a new place, you feel like, you have to beat on your chest because you think that's what it needs for people to respect you. But you're 100% right. That doesn't, maybe they hear it the first time and it's like, oh, that's great. But the second, third, fourth, fifth time, it's like, all right, dude, like, who gives a fuck what what you did or what you do? And you know what I mean? Like, they don't care. I do think it's good sometimes to be able to go out and you're teaching a process or whatever it is, to go out and do it. And they see you like, oh, okay, shit, that's how you do. You know what I mean? Like, he just did it in front of me. Like, that adds value. But yeah, that, I did this, I did that really, really doesn't work. And it's funny because when you work your whole career to be a manager or an owner, and you're like, all right, now I'm going to be the boss and all these guys are working for me. Not really, you're working for them. Like me as a manager, I am working for the techs. My job is to provide them with everything, the tools, the training, the trucks, the stock, whatever they need to be successful. I work for them. They don't really work for me.
And see, this is why we get along, right? Because as a leader, that's really the case. Like, we are there to serve our team the same way our team is there to serve our clients, and trying to be a part of someone that pushes that mindset and attitude in our trades, it's a little bit lonelier, right? Like, let's just be honest. There's not a ton of trainers out there that are going to coach you and train you on what you do when no one's looking, right? Everybody wants to be flashy and teach you how to get like a $2 or $3 or $5,000 ticket or this or that, or how to sell, umpteen inverter systems or how to sell IAQ on every call, whatever. And while none of that stuff by itself is bad, the motivation behind it is what I'm more concerned about.
Yeah.
Because I will honestly tell you, as a technician, I never one time ever walked into anyone's home with an agenda. I had one goal and one goal only. And that goal was, when I left that home, that they had been benefited by the fact that they had me in their home instead of somebody else, and they got properly taken care of. If I left feeling and believing like I had accomplished that, I didn't care what my ticket was. It just happened that my ticket was typically pretty good, but it was never the primary focus. And I'm seeing a lot of these different coaches and trainers in our space right now talking about like making the focus the $3,000 ticket. And it just doesn't sit well with me, because when you make that your focus, there's lines of what's ethical and what's not that are going to get crossed on a repeated basis, whether we mean to or we don't. And we're going to reward behaviors that we shouldn't be rewarded.
Yep. And I think that is the fine line with, I think there's a lot of good technicians out there that they are the technical guy that only offer the capacitor and leave. And I think they mean well because they're so afraid of crossing that line. But then again, they're shortchanging themselves from the revenue, or not. I don't want to say revenue. The revenue they can make their company and the income they can make themselves by just learning a better process. And I think that's kind of the thing. Like these companies that have the really good culture and have the processes in place that you're seeing online, that is the future. And that's going to, flourish and stuff like that. Like the one that comes off the top of my head is like Mike and Stacy Ford at Triple Play Home Services. Amazing. That looks like a place it looks like a place that I would want to go work when you watch them. My buddy Greg Fox at Fox Family Heating and Air Conditioning out in Sacramento, California, when he used to make his YouTube videos, you look at his team interact, it's like, I would want to work there. Like that's the kind of thing that you want to build, a place where people want to come to work every day. Like I love seeing our team do well, even if it's not at work. If they come in like, hey, I bought a new house, or I'm getting ready to buy a new car, or my wife's pregnant, or whatever it is, like I like sharing in that with people, like that feels good to me as somebody who helps lead them, because I remember things happening to me and like, this is kind of going off, but when I came here, so I worked for that other company I was at for 12 years, had a lot of really good friends there. I can count on one hand how many times somebody said happy birthday to me, like on my birthday. The first year I was here on my birthday, I came in, Amanda almost had me shit my pants with a popper when I walked in the door, but they went all out. And they do that for everybody there to show me that they really gave a shit. And I told her, I said, you have no idea what that meant to me. Yep. You know what I mean? Like those little things go a long way.
No, 100%. And so, I mean, look, I'm going to guess that the bulk of the folks that are on the line are either a technician or an owner or manager, but they're all in the trade space related. And just think about the stuff that has happened in the course of your career that you don't desire to go through again, and be a part of what keeps it from happening. Like, be a part of the change that you want to see, right? I don't want to sound cliche in that, but it's true, because there was an old school way of doing things, right? The back when I started in this trade, I will tell you this much right now. You didn't leave somebody with no heat overnight. You did not leave somebody with no heat overnight. Nowadays, I see it happen all the time. Back when I was on call and handling things, on the oil burner side, like I understand certain things would be frowned upon today, but guys, like, if anybody knows what this is, like, this will resonate with you, right? There's an old school oil burner called an Axman Anderson. It's a belt driven unit. There's a motor with a belt that connects to a fuel pump with a belt, and that thing runs, and that belt drives the fuel pump, and that's what allows it to fire. Well, where am I getting a belt at 11:30 at night? Nowhere. So what did we have to do? We had to come up with a way to fix this thing, to get this thing running. So here it is. You ready for this one? You remember those plastic eggs that our moms had when we were growing up that had the pantyhose in them?
Oh, yeah.
I went to CVS up the street and bought a pair and brought them back and tied them in a knot at the appropriate tension to get that thing running overnight, so that they would have heat through the night. And then the next day we came back and got the appropriate belt put on. Now, again, everybody is listening to this going, why in the heck is then 1900 whatever oil burner still running? Because guys, here's a newsflash for you. I work for an oil company, so we weren't all about replacing that equipment to something that burnt cleaner. Early in my career, I was taught you fix every daggone thing. You don't replace anything, because that's going to burn 1,000 gallons a year. And this new one's only going to burn 300 gallons a year. So yes, as I progressed in my career and I learned that wasn't very nice, I didn't know what I didn't know. So, but what it did teach me was it taught me to be ingenuitive and to think outside the box and to find ways to make sure that things got taken care of and clients were taken care of. And I do feel like we miss a little bit of that in today's space, right? There's a little bit more of a, well, you know, I don't have that part. Sorry.
Yeah, it's sad. And I agree. And that's how my dad taught me. Like, granted, I did more in the commercial industrial space and stuff like that when I first started with my dad. But if we did do things for friends and family, I got into commercial and he was like, you do what you have to do. So I tried to, like, I used to start keeping those yellow, like, not yellow, the red adjustable belts. Yep. The speed belts.
Yeah, the zip tie looking ones. Yep.
Yeah, the ones that you can adjust. Like I remember, like, and granted, it was easier on the older systems when you just had some relays, and that's what got me to learn how to do I could make anything do something with relays. I really started to learn them. Like, okay, well, I don't need this board because I can do this and do this. I do get it that some of the new stuff without certain parts, maybe you can't. But I mean, we give people heaters, you know what I mean? Like, we'll do something.
I think it's the empathy piece that's missing for me out of some folks when I do ride-alongs. It's that they're not relating to the client and putting themselves in the position of the client to show that they understand how they're feeling, that they feel poorly, that they can't. Because you're right, OEM parts and things like that, there's times you can't, because unfortunately today, like, there are things you can't do for liability purposes. It's a more litigious society. You got to worry about getting sued, all that different stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for someone, like, if you come into my home and you can't get me back up and running, I'm just looking for that to have an impact on you. Like just tell me that you feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. And like, reassure me that, you know, it's crappy and whatnot, and you understand, but you're going to take care of as soon as you can. I just think it's that piece. Right. And it all comes down to, like we talked about earlier, is, you know, having a consistent process that you're going to follow. Right. I know you guys have some different processes that you're working through, whatever, you know, to get it to be the Beltway process. But what I'm going to encourage everybody is, if your company doesn't have a process, it's not on them, it's on you, because you're still the one that's there. So if they haven't dictated to you, like, this is the process we want you to follow, then dictate your own, and make sure that whether you show up and the switch is off, or you show up and the heat exchanger is bad, or you show up and a capacitor is bad, that every single system you touch gets thoroughly evaluated for the condition that it's currently in versus the condition that it's capable of being in, and that the homeowner gets options on how to take it from where it is to where it could be, And then you ask them which of those things makes the most sense for them, or is there anything else that they need? Or like it all comes down to just being a really good servant person of sharing what's wrong, sharing what can be done about it, and then letting the homeowner make the choice.
Amen.
Right? That's all it comes down to. Running in, finding a switch that's off, turning the switch back on, and running out isn't serving anybody, because there's no guarantee that everything with that system is perfect.
No, and people valued their time. And I always give that story about how many times have you walked up to a house and they come outside and go, oh, the problem is outside. It's outside. And when you're young and you're naive and you don't know, oh, okay, Mr. Customer, you go out, you find the capacitor, you change it, your bill's $200, you leave. They call in the next day. I got water on the floor. My system's not working. Gil was just fucking out here. They didn't keep any kind of detailed invoice. So your manager, your service manager doesn't have a leg to stand on. It's like, go in and just look at everything. Like you said, and that's what people don't understand. No one is asking you to go out there and rip off old ladies. That is not what people are saying. Like, stop getting that. Get that out of your head. Thorough. Go in, be thorough. Look at every fucking thing on that system. Inside, outside, airflow, filter, whatever it is. Look at everything. Whatever does not look right, write it down. And everything that you note, go over it with the customer. If they don't want to fix it, guess what? They won't, but at least you brought it to their attention. You did your job.
Your job is not to make the decision for them. Your job, and look, this isn't my deal. I'm gonna give a shout out to Wally Long here, right? Weldon Long, good friend of mine. He said years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since, our job as professionals is to diagnose problems and recommend solutions. The homeowner's job is to choose to move forward with it or not. It's that cut and dry. But if we don't do the diagnosing and the recommending, they can't choose what they want to have done or not done. Now, where does it get sketchy? It gets sketchy when you start recommending shit that they don't actually need.
Yep.
Right. And I will tell you, if I do a ride along with somebody and that stuff starts going on, we're going back to the office. Like, we're going to go back to the office. We're going to have a conversation, and there's going to be an agreement put on the table, very similar to what Joe Crisera does with his folks with Pure Motive Service. And the agreement's going to be this: I agree to be ethical in all my dealings with all my clients, or I agree to own that I'm not and tell you so you can have the right as to whether or not you want to work with me.
Amen. I agree with that 100%.
So Hughes man's getting himself in trouble here. Do you see this?
What's up, Hughes man? What are you doing there, buddy? I hooked a relay up to my wife. I flipped a switch and the dishes are done.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, no, I'm leaving that.
You're on your own, buddy.
My wife watches these things sometimes. I'm not getting smothered in my insurance policy is pretty good. She'll definitely put a pillow over my face.
Yeah, no, I'm out on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And let me ask you this: when you go out to these companies and these people that they finally ask for help, because I feel like too many new business owners, they're so afraid to ask for help that they ask for help when it's too late. And do you think that that's true? And when they do, what is that? I know there's so many. What is the biggest issue you find that most of them have?
From a technician standpoint or from a company standpoint?
From a company standpoint, from a business standpoint, that technician who now owns his own business.
Number one issue is they're not charging the right price. Number one, across the board. I would dare to bet probably 75% of the businesses in our trade are not charging what they need to charge to be responsibly profitable. And it doesn't mean that they need to charge like some exorbitant amount per hour. It just means that they need to actually do the work to determine, based on what it is that we have, that we're responsible for, in order to have a 20% net profit at the end of the year, this is what I should be charging for us to be able to accomplish that successfully. And I would dare to bet it's probably close to 70-75% of companies out there right now are not priced in a way to do that. So the very first thing I do with any client that I take on is we review financials. I look at their profit and loss statement. I'm looking at relationships between revenue and, field labor as a percentage of revenue, materials as a percentage of revenue, equipment as a percentage of revenue, vehicle expense, different buckets on the indirect side, right? To see where they're at, because usually you can uncover the bleeding pretty quickly. And then the very next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at the behavioral KPIs, behavioral metrics in the field. So what do I mean by behavioral? I mean, I'm going to look at things like options per opportunity, right? I'm not looking at average ticket. If no other coach has ever said this, one's going to say it right now. I don't care what your average ticket is. I don't care. I care about two metrics more than any other. Number one, options per opportunity. Number two, conversion rate. How often do I go to serve Mr. or Mrs. Jones and I leave having them allowed me to have served them, right? I'm leaving and they don't have the same problem they had when I got there after I've taken time from them. I've simply found that when I get options per opportunity dialed in to where we're giving an adequate number of options to our client, and I get that conversion rate where it needs to be, the other numbers happen to fall in place. So I just don't pay attention to them because they're noise, right? Average tickets for ego. If you want to impress me, tell me what your conversion rate is. Like, you want to impress me? You did 10 tune-ups last week. How many of those tune-ups did you actually help the homeowner improve their situation on? Did you leave and all you did was the tune-up for all 10 clients? Or did you leave and 9 of those 10 clients now have an enhanced filtration than what they had before? Something better for monitoring temperature and whatnot for their lifestyle than what they had before. Safety switches that weren't a part of the system from day one, like a wet switch or a water switch on a water heater or what, like all these different things. Like, there's no end to the things that we're able to offer folks. It's just going in and having your eyes open wide enough to be looking to see what it is that they can benefit from and then offer it. And if they choose it, they choose it. That's great. If they don't, you have to understand, did they not choose it because I did a crappy job, or did they not choose it because they don't want it? Right? Because if you're in their house for 15 minutes and you come back to them asking them to spend $2,000 with you, they're supposed to tell you no. Just so you know, that's a newsflash. They're supposed to tell you no.
Yep. Sadly, time equals perceived value, but hopefully you're doing the right thing in that time. That's like all these people do these maintenance contracts, and I still go with, some of our guys are still learning, and some of them are really good techs. They're just not understanding, if you go do a maintenance and you're there for 39 minutes and you come down and then you offer all this stuff and you wonder why they don't do it or they don't renew, it's because you didn't build any value. Like that needs to, like me, when I used to do a maintenance and how I want the maintenance to be done, like you should be there for like an hour and a half. Like I'm fine if you do 3 maintenances in a day. I'm perfectly okay. Take the fucking burners out. I want you walking shit, show them what it looks like, educate the customer, like take your time. And I feel like some guys think they're taking their time, but when you look at the number, it's like, yeah, you didn't really take your time.
I just feel like as a trade, we've gotten away from the basics.
Yeah.
Right. We've gotten away from the basics. So, on a tune-up, like what are some of the things that should be done all the time? Right. So like it's heating season right now. If you go and you do a tune-up on a gas furnace and you didn't check gas pressure, you didn't do a tune-up.
Nope.
If you go and do a tune-up on a gas furnace and you didn't test out the flame sensor and you can't tell me what the microamps were, you didn't do a tune-up. If you don't measure like where it is that the pressure switch is closing, or see what the inducer is pulling to close the pressure switch, or amperage, or if you're not doing those things, that's not a tune-up. That's a visual inspection. right? And so this is a place where we get a lot of rift because companies are like, well, we charge extra to do this. We charge extra to do that. Well, then don't get pissed off when your clients don't renew because there's no value in your contract.
Yeah. But what do you mean, TJ? I do a 96-point inspection. It says it on my paper. I look at everything. You see when I do a 96-point inspection. That doesn't mean anything. You have to actually do what you say you're going to do. And I agree. Oh, pressure switch looks good. Well, it's working. Well, no shit. That's why it's a maintenance. Is it going to keep working? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Is it dirty? I mean, like, yeah, I agree. Too many guys don't do that. And I guess it's,
it's become more about checking boxes, Gil. It's become more about like, oh yeah, check the box, right? The boss says I have to do this, so let's just do it. Let's check. Instead of understanding why we're doing it, right? Like if I'm going to ask you to do 35 things on a tune-up, it's really important that you understand why I'm asking you to do those 35 things. Right. And so based on what you uncover when you go through your tune-up should lead you in a direction of what your recommendations ought to be. If you get to the end and you're going to make recommendations to a client and you're going to suggest things to them and you can't tie it back to something that you did in the course of that tune-up or something that they brought up in the course of conversation with them, you haven't earned the right to put it on the page yet. You're just a jerk trying to sell them something. You got to be able to tie it back. And again, so from a process standpoint, this is where like you got to be a technician first. You've got to know your craft. You have to understand sequence of operations, how things are supposed to work, what ideally things need to be. And then once you've got that part down, then worry about the enhanced sales side of things. I've never met a technician that I would want to have work alongside of me based solely off of his sales numbers.
I agree. And how we talk about options and stuff, all you guys out there that are really, really good technically, you can build better options than anyone. Because you know the technical side, you know what to look for, so you can build the better options than anybody out there. I want you all to remember that. And we just had that. We explained that to one of our technicians who doesn't really like to feel like he's selling. He's a real honest guy, and I went through and explained to him, and I said, you are leaps and bounds better than anybody else that works here as far as technicians wise, technically. I said, so I want you to just write down what you see. These numbers over here are irrelevant. You don't determine what those numbers are. It doesn't matter, but you just build those options. And the way me and Ryan explained it to him was the top is factory fresh. What it takes to get that thing back to the day it came off the showroom floor, what you would do at your house, and what needs to be done to fix the problem. Like, this has to be done. That's it. And he was just like, man, that makes like perfect sense. You know what I mean? Like, as long as they don't feel like they're trying to sell. And I always tell them, I don't want you to sell the customer anything. All of you are technicians. You're not salesmen. Not one of you. You know what I mean? I want you to be good at what you do, offer them what they need that's going to fix their problems. And like you said, listen to the customer, hear what they say. Like when you hear a customer like ashtrays or pets or something, little Jimmy, you see his asthma inhaler. Okay, so they probably want to breathe better air. They probably don't even know that there's a way to even do that. So if you're good at your job, it's my job to bring that up. I can't tell you how many customers, wives, like moms who have cried when we've installed new IAQ. When I was a technician, when I installed new IAQ stuff and I went back to do like a maintenance after that, and they were like, Gil, it changed our life. Like, you have no idea. Like, little Jimmy doesn't use his inhaler in the house anymore. Like, it's like, and you don't think that you can make that kind of impression, or you can, when we say change people's lives, you're like, oh, Gil's being dramatic. I'm not. Like, it's serious, like you really can.
it's legit, right? There's I could tell dozens of stories about, sales calls and the reason that why either myself or a team member got a sale over somebody else getting a sale, and then what the result was or whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to one reason. And that is that we showed we cared based on how we served. And I firmly believe with every ounce of my being, if we will show people that we care with our actions and how we do things, 9 times out of 10, it goes well, right? I know there's the whole no good deed goes unpunished, and sometimes we get the crappy end of the stick, but I'll take that, right? Like for the ability to lay my head on a pillow at night, knowing that I've only ever done what was right for my clients, I'll deal with it, right? Am I as well-to-do and flashy, like I said, as some of the other folks in this coaching industry? No, but I'm also not nearly as full of shit. So there's that.
Yeah. And I could sleep at night. I can lay my head on my pillow at night because I have a conscience. And let's be honest, there's some guys out here that they give no fucks. They don't care.
Zero.
Yeah, they don't care about the customer. As long as they're getting that paycheck or that sale at the end of the month or end of the week, that's all they care about. But I want all of you watching this to know there is more of us out there that give a shit than don't. I really, really, truly believe that, that those shitbags out there, they're few and far between. I think it's guys who give a shit. Then there's guys that think they're doing the right thing. They just don't understand that they're not. But their heart's in the right place. Like those guys who go out, change the capacitor, and leave because they think that that's what the customer wants, that they're trying to keep that bill down. So I know your heart's in the right place. And when those people learn a legit process like me and TJ have been talking about, those guys will thrive because they are honest. They're going to make more money for the company. They're going to make more money for themselves, realizing that they're still being honest and doing what's right for the customer. What's up, Craig and Jessica? How you doing? So, yeah, hi to some of these people. Made me feel good. C. Young says, I have used some of what Gil, and it used to be Kelly, my old co-host, would talk about with options, and it's closed more deals without feeling like a sales turd. That's good. You should. It's not about selling anything like, me and TJ have talked about. It's about being thorough and doing what's right. Take your time. How many of you in the comments watching this right now, and between the two, there's almost 100 people. So how many of you would like to do less calls in a day? Say you only did 4 calls in a day. You're home by 5 o'clock every day. You make it home for dinner. You're making more money than you've ever made in your career. Your customers love you and your wife's happy that you're home. Most of you think that that's not real and it can't happen, but it can. That can happen. 100%. It happens every day with good companies out there. So you guys, like when I live in the Facebook, people are like, I ran 15 calls per day. I ran 15 calls today. Well, then you ran
1 call per day.
Yeah.
Church, I'll make you a deal. If you're an installer, I'll only give you 1 call per day.
Yes. Yeah. Those guys that say they're doing 8, 9, 10 calls. And I did, granted, I worked from like 6:37 until midnight. I mean, who the fuck wants you in their house at midnight? But when I was doing that many calls, I wasn't being thorough and I wasn't doing a very good job.
No, but weren't you working really hard?
Yeah, I thought I was.
Okay. And weren't you putting in a lot of effort?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I want everybody to hear. Busy doesn't equal productive, right? Being busy doesn't equal being productive. And so just because you work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, it doesn't mean that the way that it's being done makes the most sense. I mean, honestly, my rule was, and I'd be interested if anybody on install has this, but my rule was my team needed to assess whether or not they could get done an installation by 6 p.m. at 3 p.m. if their belief was that they could get done by 6 p.m., then they were allowed to stay. If they got to 3 p.m. and they knew there was no way on earth they were getting done by 6 p.m., then whenever their 8-hour time frame was done, they were wrapping up and we were coming back. Why? Because the well-being of my guys meant a lot more to me than the inconvenience of having to move the schedule around. The caveat to that is it also showed me which guys I had to do a better job of training, which guys I had to do a better job of preparing, and who I had to do ride-alongs with if there was a perpetual challenge of getting things done in that same one-day time frame. So the default as a shitty leader is stay till it's done. The right way to handle it is put a cutoff time on it. If you can be done by that cutoff time, then you can keep going. If you can't, then we're coming back tomorrow. And now me as a leader, I have to find out where either skill set, abilities, or you being set up for success is missing and help to put it back.
That's awesome. I like that. We don't have that. I would say we're pretty lucky that we have some rock star installers that they're done in 4 hours, 5 hours. If they're 8 hours, something went, horrifically wrong. Because they do have pretty good processes. There's some things that we got to clean up. Don't get me wrong. There's always ways to grow. But the installer side, especially our lead installer, Dave, he's well, it's funny. Well, we say he's a rock star, but he's a legit rock star too. Like he actually is in the band. Yeah. But yeah, that's amazing. I never heard of it that way. And that does. And I think it really means a lot when your people, and I've heard people say, reputation over revenue and stuff like that. But when your team knows that they mean more to you than the almighty dollar. And because
if you don't have your team, you ain't getting the dollar. Let's be real about it.
That's why when people say, what's the most important thing? People are like, customers. No, your employee, your technicians, your people. Without them, what the hell are you going to do with that customer?
There's an old adage, right? It is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Right. And so I don't know about anybody else, but like, going fast is only fun for so long, right? I used to drive race cars. I don't anymore. But would that still be fun? Yeah, potentially. But you know what's a whole lot more fun? Being able to do sustainable shit and being able to leave an impact in people to where they're better off when you're done with them than they were when you found them. Those things are far more rewarding than getting somewhere fast. And so again, even in the coaching and training side, right? Like, Gil, I gotta be honest, like every time I do a podcast or any different event or whatever, it gets harder and harder to bite your tongue and not like drive the bus over anybody else in the space, because you just get so fed up with seeing the stuff that goes on. But then what really keeps it from ever happening for me is the fact that it's like, that's going to be more of a reflection of me than it is of somebody else. Yeah. Right. Like, so, when it comes down to all this other stuff, like if you're seeing things that aren't what you desire, then just stop doing it. Right. I'm not saying be insubordinate with your job, but nobody's going to tell you to do the job wrong. Right. So if the way that y'all are set up and you're running a service call and you know that you should do it better, then do it better. There's nothing. You reserve the right to get better every day, and you reserve the right to do the right thing all the time. Nobody gets to take that away from you, no matter where you work or who you work for. So if you're choosing to do less than, that's a personal choice situation, and you need to look at yourself about that.
Yep. Amen. That. Remember, hey, I know that you wouldn't, but this is uncensored. So if you need to, pedal to the metal, run those motherfuckers over. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
The day will come, my friend, but look, all I'll say is this, and y'all can read between the lines however you want. If somebody is that glitzy and glamorous and flashy from coaching other folks, not from anything that they've ever actually accomplished themselves, you have to ask yourself why. And then on top of that, you also have to say, like, I use the old adage of 2 beers and a puppy. You ready for this one, Gil? This will be my like parting thought, if you will.
All right.
The 2 beers and a puppy thing is this. If you're not somebody I'd want to hang out with and drink a couple beers with, or you're not somebody that I would trust to watch my puppy, I don't need you in my life. You got to be able to hit one of those 2 things. I either want to just chill out and drink a couple beers with you because I think you're cool and you're enjoyable to be around, or you're somebody that I really look at as trustworthy and honorable, and I would allow you to watch my dog. Either of those groups are great. If somebody's not in one of those groups, why are we wasting time with them? And I'm just kind of ashamed of the industry right now with some of the guys that we're allowing some of our people to waste their time with.
I agree. Or when I hear people, and I get it when you have to sell yourself, I get it, you know, and I give some people an A for effort. But when you have to talk about yourself in the third person, or you have to tell people how great you are, that is a problem. Most of the leaders in this industry, when you talk about Weldon Long, Uncle Joe Crisera, other people will tell you how good they are. You make one post and you will have hundreds of people. He's amazing. He's awesome. He did this. He did that. You will never hear them say a word about themselves ever. You know, like just people, and like people like you, like, and people won't, you know, so when I hear some of that, it's just, I don't know. I guess it just kind of turns me off. And I mean, and I guess I can't be a hypocrite because, you know, I joke and say #1 podcast and stuff like that. But I'm also not selling anything, you know, my podcast is free.
Yeah. To me, it's not about that. It's about, are you truly more interested in the growth and development of the people that you're serving, or are you more interested in what it's going to allow you to do for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like, do I want to live a comfortable, healthy lifestyle? Well, yeah, but not on the backs of the people that trust me. Right? Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I want folks to have long-standing relationships with myself, with us at RYNO, you know, on the Traxion side, on the marketing side. Are we perfect? Do we get it right all the time? No. But do we own it when we don't? Yes. That's the difference. Right? I'm going to get stuff wrong. I'm going to crap. I was sick for 3 weeks. You think that it didn't weigh on me not being able to serve people at the level that I have grown to expect from myself to serve people while I was recovering from COVID and all the other nonsense that I went through for a little bit of period of time there? No, it drove me insane. But how do we communicate that? We communicate it by, when you're back, #1, you apologize. You know what it's like apologizing to people for being sick, and the people are like, are you retarded? Like, stop apologizing for that. Like, it's not your fault. But I wasn't necessarily apologizing for the being sick. What I was apologizing for was, I said that you could count on me for this, this, and this. And because of something that was outside of my control, I wasn't able to deliver on that guarantee. And that doesn't make me feel good. So I just want you to know that moving forward, these are the things I plan on doing to make it up to you, because I gave my word, and that means something. I just have to believe, Gil, in my heart of hearts, that at some point it'll come full circle, and that'll be more valued than somebody who wants to teach how to sell widgets to Mrs. Jones for X number of dollars, whether Mrs. Jones needs them or doesn't, because then you get to be a slime bag too and drive fancy cars and live in fancy houses and whatever else goes with it. If that's your thing, that's cool. Just do me a favor. Don't ever hire me as a coach.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I got COVID. I got it right after you, you know, when I came back. Yep. And I felt the same way, you know, when you're stuck at home and I can't do anything. And, but I guess that just shows, you know, the kind of people we are. And I would like to think, like we said, there's more people out there with the mentality like us than the others. They just don't film it and put it out on social media. But I would like to think that that's more of the masses than the other side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Gil, if it's all right, I want to kind of just share with everybody where they could find me.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Cause we're getting to the nitty gritty with time, so we can close this out. Yep. Yeah, go ahead, TJ. So,
coming up, there's a lot of travel coming up. So for anybody on the line that might be attending any of the Lennox Live shows, there's 4 of them throughout the country. If you go to any of the Lennox Live shows, I would love for you to come and say hello to us at Camp RYNO. Chris and myself will be speaking at each of those Lennox Live events. There's the RYNO Pro Partner Show coming up that we will be in attendance as well. There's the ACCA event coming up in St. Louis, Missouri in March, where we will be, and we will both be speaking there as well. And then lastly, you guys can just reach out to either Gil or myself directly. And guys, here's what I want to offer. If you have a question, if you need perspective, if you just want to run by me like, hey, here's where I'm at in my career. Here's where I want to go. What are some things I could do to get there? Like, guys, no strings attached. This isn't a sales pitch. This is nothing like that. This is me having been someone who was in the field, in the trenches, doing the crawl spaces in the wintertime and the outside in the wintertime and the attics in the summertime and like, I understand the 160-degree attics and I understand standing outside in the cold weather. If you need any perspective on where you want to go in your career, what might be some of the different paths, who some of the different people in the trades might be that you might want to look at as far as people to look up to, rather than some that maybe you probably shouldn't. I just want to make myself available for that. If I can coach, by all means, I'd love to help out. I'd love to gain new clients, but more than anything, I just want to make sure that I'm serving folks and that I'm leaving you better than I found you.
Amen. And like I said, I already vouch. If you haven't in the last hour and a half, got a little insight onto what kind of person TJ is, watch it again, because exactly how he is when he's sitting there talking to you is exactly how he is when we're on the phone with him. He is that kind of person. That's what he believes and what he breeds. And that's why it is so awesome him being our coach, to be able to help us and give us those honest, direct answers that are going to help us grow and Beltway be more successful. So I highly suggest that any of you take him up on that offer. Don't be afraid to do that. And if you need to get in touch with him, like he said, please feel free and message me. You guys know how to get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with TJ in a heartbeat.
There we go.
So, well, I know it's been an hour and a half. This is, like I said, we'll blink an eye in an hour and a half. I said that. So I thank you so much for coming on, man. I want you to know that I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate what you do for people, what you do for us, what you do for me. I really do thank you, man. I appreciate your friendship and all that kind of stuff. And thank you so much, man.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate you and the time, and just I hope everybody found it worthwhile. And if I can help in any way, shape, or form, reach out and afford me the ability to do that.
100%. Well, thank you for coming on, buddy. I'm going to close this thing out and let these people go here. Guys, I'm sorry I didn't do, when I do these podcasts, I don't get to interact with the chat that much. Obviously, I have a guest here that I'm talking to. I am going to start doing some live streams when I pop up, and that'll just be me talking to you guys. So if I missed you tonight, I didn't get to call you out. I apologize. I do appreciate all of you, C. Young, Craig Egan, Zeke, Hughes, man. I want to make sure I try to call some of you guys out for being here. Mr. Tunge, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you coming in. Tersh, I always appreciate you, brother. I hope everything's going good with the stuff you got going on. For some reason, the Facebook users, since it's a private group, it just comes up Facebook user. So if you made a comment on Facebook, thank you. Isaiah, everything HVAC, trying to hurry up here. Yeah, if I missed you, I'm sorry, but thank you guys for coming to watch tonight. I do appreciate you. A lot of great episodes coming up on the podcast that I have coming up. Some amazing guests. I have the president of Blue On coming up. Some of the amazing women from Women in HVACR. I have some just regular schmo technicians that I can't wait for them to come on and just hear their story. So many good guests coming on. So every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you get your fucking asses right here and we're going to hang out. All right. So hump day, you come here and we fucking hang out. All right. But yeah, what in the hell I just flipped the screen, hit a button. So once again, man, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Once again, I want to say thanks to the sponsors out there. My friends over at Company Cam is the new sponsor. If any of you business owners, managers are interested, I will have a discount code for that soon, so you guys can try them out. Yellow Jacket, 7 years of expertise built into every tool. I love Yellow Jacket. Service Hero Academy. The app is amazing. If you have not tried the Service Hero app, try it out. It is really, really helping people, changing technicians' life. I can't thank them enough for that partnership and what it's been doing. Last but not least, another new sponsor that I'm working on that is not quite done. You guys know how big I am on mental health and addiction. It is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm working with a company called BetterHelp. It's not complete, and I'm not worried about me making money or nothing like that. You guys know I don't give two fucks about that. If any of you out there are going through something, addiction, mental health, and you need somebody to talk to, guys, go to betterhelp.com. It is licensed physicians, licensed psychologists that you can go on there. You can talk to somebody you can be in your van, on your truck. You don't have to show your face, but you can get the help you need. So I want all of you to know that if you need help, it is out there. It's available. It's cheaper than going to most doctors, most in-person visits. If you want to go in person, you can. If you want to be like this on a screen, you can talk to somebody that way. If you want to turn your camera off and you just want to talk because you don't want them to see your face, then you don't have to. There are so many different opportunities for you to do it. They've been helping millions of people over the last couple of years. They are amazing. I know several people have used them personally. So guys, if you need that help, remember betterhelp.com, www.betterhelp.com. All right, guys, I'm going to close this out. Thank you for being here. Remember, always make it home the same way you left. We all got someone to make it home to. Be safe out there. Be smart. Remember, do the little things. Set yourself apart from the next guy. I've been preaching that for 4 years, and I will preach that shit to the day I fucking die. Be better today than you were yesterday. Keep growing. We can never, ever stop learning, and we will always be better together. All right? And until next week, I will talk with you mofos later. I love you. Take care of yourself. And peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast and being the best part of HVAC Uncensored Nation. Remember to follow us on social media sites to stay up to date on the latest content and giveaways. Now, get back to work and shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored Podcast may not be the same as the sponsors or guests.